Good afternoon. My name is Jim Conlan. Welcome to the latest edition of our Cult Classic series, where we look back at TV movies, TV series, films that have left their mark throughout the decades. As we dig deep into the vault as we go back throughout the years, throughout the decades. And this week in for discussion is a horror sort of movie. It was a horror movie where two boards came alive. We have the Elm Street element and Friday the 13th in terms of Freddy Krueger meeting the one and only, the unkillable stopping machine, the man that could not die, and Jason Voorheis. Sort of Halloween sort of clash for all those youngsters who feared the sort of the boogeyman as such, the two biggest nightmares coming to life. It came out in 2003, and one of the most iconic roles you can play as a horror film in terms of that last 2 decades or 3 decades. It wasn't Michael Marsh and it wasn't Freddy Krueger. Then it had to be Jason Voorheis. And the guy who donned the Jason Voorheis outfit back in 2003, there's only been 2 people to do it. Ken Hodder was the other one. My guest this evening, Ken Kirzinger. Ken, to say you played Freddy Krueger, I'm just sort of wondering, every time people come around to your house at Halloween, the youngsters and thing, do you always reach into the costume, reach into wardrobe saying, get out the Jason Voorheis outfit now to meet the 10 or 11-year-old kids in terms of giving them the candy and the sweets when they arrive at the door?
You know what? I have not done that. I have not done that. I think, I get to throw the costume on now and then at a convention, and people seem to enjoy that quite a bit, but no, I haven't approached any kids. Although I have dressed up at Halloween a couple times in a really cheap Jason mask with a plastic machete to go to certain parties, because as a stuntman and an actor, I'm constantly dressing up. I've been a werewolf, a robot, a lot of different things over the years. So that's my turn to let everybody else dress up, and so I've avoided that so far.
And you mentioned being a stuntman and being probably one of the most recognizable stuntmen in terms of names anyway in the industry. And I suppose when you play a character like Jason Voorheis, obviously he's silent, he doesn't open his mouth. Are you almost screaming inside that you just want people to sort of hear your voice, even if it was to mutter one or sort of 2 words to sort of people that can distinguish someone watching at home and say, wait, is that Ken behind the mask?
Well, you know what? That would be fun. I bet you would get about half the fans hating that and about half the fans loving it if Jason said something. And, playing Jason is a very physical role. They tend to hire stuntmen to play him. And so, we have to learn to communicate with our bodies. Body language is, I think, 90% of our communication. But yeah, it'd be fun to say something from behind the mask. If they did a Freddy versus Jason 2 and brought Robert and I back, if I got to utter some words, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and Ken, in terms of, it's an iconic sort of role for anyone to play in Jason Voorheis. We know Ken Hodder played the role previously. How did the opportunity come about for you to get the gig in terms of Jason? Were you recommended for the role, or did you still have to go in and sort of people are aware of your resume and that sort of the producers, filmmakers? Was someone working on the set that, listen, I think Ken could be the perfect guy for this? And was it a case that you were approached first, or was it a case that Ken wasn't available? Or
no, I know that they wanted to go with a different person to play Jason. Actually, I almost played Jason in number 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. I had gotten a phone call from the production manager asking me, Ken, would you like to be the stunt coordinator and play Jason? And then the next phone call I got was the guy who played him before me, which was Kane, had communicated with them and was going to come up and play him again. So I just got to double Kane on that one, I guess. And well, I was the fry cook and the stunt coordinator as well. So when Freddy versus Jason came up to Vancouver, I interviewed for the stunt coordinating job, and they saw on my resume that I had already worked on number 8, doubling Kane and playing the the fry cook and being the stunt coordinator. So while I was sitting with the one of the producers discussing the stunt coordinating, he was kind of looking at me and going, we've been looking for somebody, just your build, somebody tall, somebody a little bigger than Kane, and would you be interested in auditioning for the role? And so I said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And so they gave me the opening, a scene of the girls swimming in the lake, and they did a close-up of me, reacting to her, and then they had me walk around the room, and I guess they sent that to Ronnie Yu, and Ronnie Yu okayed me for the job, and that was it.
And I suppose, Ken, you're well aware, you mentioned of dressing up and playing everything from werewolves to robots. And I suppose on the production of a movie like Freddy versus Jason, you're probably always in that costume every time you're on set. In terms of wardrobe, were you in maybe at 3 a.m. in the morning putting on all that sort of was disguise in terms of, was there an awful lot in terms of the wardrobe of Jason? And I imagine come the end of the day, it must have been fair sort of claustrophobic inside there, is hot to sweat. Did you actually lose a few pounds on set in terms, because I imagine it looks like it's a fairly big sort of ordeal in terms of the whole sort of costume around Jason Jason Voorheis, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, you might think so, but actually there's no padding or anything. I just put the costume on the same way you would dress. And the makeup was very quick. They could get that done in about, I'd say 15 minutes. And then the headpiece was one piece, balaclava with my face exposed. And I just put the mask on, so I could be ready in, less than half an hour. And
Wow.
Versus Robert Englund going in and getting the makeup on and it taking 3 or 4 hours. And I've had to do that a couple of times over the years. Sit in the chair at 3 a.m. And getting the makeup on, and it's no fun, I'll tell you that. But no, actually, the Jason costume was probably one of the best, easiest costumes I've ever had to wear.
And you mentioned, obviously, we know your stunt background, and in terms of Robert as well playing the Fred character. I imagine those sort of fight sequences between the two of you throughout the movie, they had to be shot from all different angles in terms of choreography to sort of portray all the sort of effects. Was that probably those sequences, was it mainly the sequence just between yourself and Freddy? Was that nearly a week, 2 weeks of constant sort of shooting between the two of you?
Yeah, the big fight finale, I want to say took a little over a week to shoot. It may have taken 2, but I just can't remember anymore. But that big sequence, I mean, that's what everybody came to see, right? So they spent a lot of time on it, and obviously they did it right. People seem to love the fight scene between Freddy and Jason.
Yeah, and I suppose, Fred, in terms of shooting a production like Jason, Freddy versus Jason, and working, obviously, Kelly Rowland was a big name at the time with sort of Destiny's Child. There was other sort of young actresses in the business as well. Was there much sort of interaction between yourself and Robert? Did you on set sort of hung with yourselves and the other sort of casting between sort of takes, or was there a good intermingling? Was there a good camaraderie on set?
There really was. Robert was just so amazing to work with. He was just, took me under his wing right off the bat. We met in the makeup trailer, and he was just so friendly, and every day he was happy to see me, and we'd hang out on set together quite a bit. We just got along fantastically, and of course, after the movie came out, we did a lot of promotional stuff together. So we were traveling, and Robert knows where the best hotels in every country in the world is, and so there was myself and his wife Nancy and Robert, traveling and hanging out together, and I just couldn't have wished for a better person to have been playing Freddy. He was just fantastic.
And I suppose, Ken, at the time, there was probably an awful lot of promotional work with the movie, and I suppose all those Comic-Cons and horror Comic-Cons afterwards. Did you find yourself for the next 2 or 3 years sort of reprising the sort of Jason Voorheis role, being in demand for sort of bookings for all these conventions, maybe for even maybe 2 or 3 years after the movie?
Well, yes. I mean, the character is iconic. I always say, I'm not famous, Jason is. And I can tell you a funny story. We had some visitors come to set, a very famous director, and I'm trying to remember his name, Singer, was directing a movie in Vancouver at the time. And we were shooting out at Bunsen Lake, and they came out to see the set. And I got a message on my radio, would you come out and meet him? And I wasn't in costume at the time. And so I walked out of my trailer to meet him. You could just see the disappointment in his eyes. And so I said, all right, wait a minute. And I went and I put the costume on, and I sort of snuck around behind him and his entourage of people. And I came walking up in character, and they were just like little kids. They couldn't believe it. They were walking around going, oh, I love the hair, and I love this costume, and sort of looking at me like I was a mannequin, walking around and critiquing it. But people are like little kids around Jason. It's really, really great. And promoting it was just, as part of the deal. Of course, after you do a movie like that, you get to go promote it. And I think a lot of people know the Vegas show that we did, where they introduced Robert and I like boxers, and I think that was the most fun one that we did. So yes, promoting it was fantastic. All the traveling we got to do for that.
And I suppose, Ken, you mentioned there as well when I was talking to you beforehand about a very special book that's dear to your heart. You might enlighten listeners what that is about.
Yeah, I just got to bring this up. I have a fan named Shayna Keebler, and we've been corresponding over the years, and I got to chase my passion as a stuntman and as an actor, and it paid off, and I really encourage people to do that. And Shayna wrote a book called Rusty Blade: The Love of a Fan, and you can get it on Amazon. It's her first book, and I'm hoping it's one of many. But I'm just so proud of her, and she worked so hard, and she was sending me pages as she wrote them. And so I really want to promote her book. You got to go out and get it. Rusty Blade: The Love of a Fan, and it's by Shayna Keebler. You got to check it out. I think any fan who reads it can relate. And I just want to thank her for giving me credit in the book. And God bless her, and I hope she keeps going.
On that note, Ken Kirzinger, an absolute pleasure to talk to you, reliving your memories of playing Jason Voorheis in Freddy versus Jason, and no doubt many more projects in the pipeline for you, Ken, in the future. And who knows, you may get to don that Jason Voorheis costume again sometime in the near future. And we look forward to seeing you doing that. And hopefully, please God, we'll get to speak to you sometime again, Ken. But for the moment, Ken Kirzinger, take care and God bless.
Thank you, James. You take care.
Cheers.